in, but I think I think we have enough people to get started. So thank you everyone so much for joining us. We're so excited and so grateful to see so many returning plungers, plunge hosts, plunge supporters, our amazing donors, and of course, a lot of new faces too. So thank you guys for coming out to learn something new tonight. Hopefully get inspired to make some waves with us this year. For this month's town hall, we're going to be talking about personally my favorite event, one of the most fun, exciting parts of my job as community and operations director here at EBRP, the Plunge for Elodie. So today we're going to be talking about how the plunge began, how it's grown just exponentially over the past 7 years and the many different forms that it's taken, how this growth has directly impacted EBRP's progress and has led to some really incredible change and growth in the EB landscape, the impact that the plunge has had, of course, all over the world, but we'll get to hear particularly from one family who's been impacted by it in the Seattle area. And of course, we'll have a time for a Q&A session before wrapping things up. Just to go over the format a bit for today, we ask that everyone please stay on mute to respect our lovely speakers. We will save questions for a bit towards the end, and we're going to prioritize the questions that were submitted beforehand. However, please feel free to send any questions at all as they arise in the chat. You can do so to the whole group, or if you'd prefer to have it a bit more private, you can direct your questions to Margot Sosa on our team in the Zoom chat. You're also free to email any questions to me personally at allison@ebresearch.org. We're going to do our best to get through as many questions as we can today, but I personally will be following up with everybody whose question wasn't answered after this call. So send as many questions as you want. We'll definitely make sure to answer them. If not today, then shortly. So today we have the pleasure of hearing from multiple amazing driving forces behind the Plunge for Elodie movement. First, we're going to hear from Emily Kubik, mom to Elodie, EBRP board member and treasurer and fierce EB advocate. We're also going to hear from Kristan Khtikian, one of Emily's childhood best friends, an original co-creator of the Plunge for Elodie, and just all-around event planning and fundraising superstar. And lastly, of course, we're going to hear from our friends Annie and Patterson McKenzie, EB warriors, and the rock stars behind the Seattle Plunge. So with that, it's my pleasure to pass it over to Emily Kubik to talk about her family's journey and a bit about how the plunge began.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I had seen the list of people who RSVP'd, and I know there's so many people on this call that already know a lot about my family's journey. So I'm not going to go on forever here. And I'm so excited to have Patterson and Annie on this call as well, just to talk about more than just Elodie and more than just our family and all the, give more perspective on all the families who are caring for someone with EB or have EB themselves that we're fighting for. But for those that don't know, my daughter Elodie was born in July 2016. She was diagnosed fairly quickly with recessive dystrophic epidermolysis bullosa, or RDEB, as we not so affectionately call it. And it is, I know everyone here is really familiar with EB. So, obviously it's a devastating disease and a devastating diagnosis to get when you're imagining your life in a very different way. We started the plunge, and really Kristan has been the driving force behind it, who will speak next. But my friends wanted to do something, and I felt like the number one thing I wanted to do was to help cure this disease and do my family's part in that process. So I had found the EB Research Partnership, felt that their goals and mission aligned most closely with what my family's mission was, which was to cure this disease and put an end to the suffering of my daughter, as well as everyone who has this disease. And we came up with the idea of the Plunge for Elodie as a family-friendly fundraiser that would be very easy to sort of put together versus, like a gala, and would help us really spread the word on what this disease was, and make a splash. And now 8 years, I mean, Elodie turned 8 in July. 8 years later, it's really become this amazing movement. It has
What's this level on? What's your volume on?
it has helped us spread the word, both locally and then, across the world, and has made such a difference. Elodie is a little celebrity in our town. So many people participate in the Plunge for Elodie. And so it's had such a huge impact on our lives and her quality of life, in addition to helping fund research that will hopefully save her life down the line. When we started it, we never imagined, we obviously hoped it would grow, but we never imagined that it would also become this vehicle to connect with other families and wonderful people like Annie and Patterson. And now we're, we created this town. Sorry about that. We created this town hall because we wanted to give people the tools and other families the tools to create this event and do this event in their own backyards, because it is really quite easy to put together and a great way to raise a lot of money with very little cost to support the cause. Did I forget anything, Allison?
No, that was perfect. Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you for joining this discussion tonight and for sharing your family and Elodie, and everyone, both on this call and of course around the world, battling EB every day. You're our North Star here at EBRP. You're why we, get up every day and are so inspired and motivated to come to our jobs and fight for that cure. And we're not going to stop plunging until we get there for Elodie and Patterson and Brooks, everyone around the world battling EB. So thank you so much, Emily. And with that, I'm so excited to introduce Kristan here to talk to us a little bit about how the Plunge has grown from that Wellesley Plunge 8 years ago to what now more than 20 locations, Kristan. So thank you so much for joining us today, Kristan. So glad that you could spend the time chatting with us on this call. And just honestly, thank you for all of the love and the thought that you've put into the Plunge these last 7 years. It's been really amazing to get to work with you, and it's so inspiring. I'd love to just start off with asking, what was it like meeting Elodie and learning about EB for the first time?
Well, Emily and I were lucky enough to grow up across the street from each other. So when Elodie was born and we heard that she had EB, none of us had ever heard of it before. So we had to educate ourselves.
Meeting ID.
I think there's someone who's not on mute. We had to educate ourselves about EB. And then we said to her, as Emily so beautifully said, what can we do to help? And she said, help me save my daughter. So that's when we got to work, and we wanted to do something very different with this event. We wanted to make a splash, like Emily said. We wanted to have something that was very replicable around the world and didn't require a lot of cost to make it happen. And I think the most beautiful part about this event is not just that it's so replicable, but it's also really fun. It takes a sad cause and makes it just a really big party and good time. And everyone who comes to the event is filled with enthusiasm and excitement and wants to learn more about the cause and get more involved. So I just can't say more about the special nature of this event.
Absolutely. I've been to, I think, 5 plunges now, sort of across the US, and I completely echo that. It is something really special. I'd love to learn or just hear a little bit more about what was the very first plunge like in Wellesley. What were you just hoping for at that time?
We were gathering a small group, and we had a $15,000 fundraising goal, and we never thought we'd get to it. And the next thing I knew, we were crushing our goal, and we had, over 100 people show up that we never thought would happen. And local media got excited about it, and we had news cameras there, and we were just mind blown. And we've been against different weather patterns and the pandemic, and yet we keep going, and this story keeps resonating with people. And we've just been so grateful year after year to involve more and more people in the community. And that's something that I, encourage anyone who's interested in doing a plunge to try and make as much networking in your community as you can. High school teams, if there's colleges nearby, police departments, fire departments, anyone who can join you and get behind this cause. It just has built year after year and become something really spectacular.
It really truly has. I mean, from a $15,000 fundraising goal to now $2.5 million raised in, not that many years is just beyond incredible. I can't thank you guys enough for all of the support that you've thrown into this and to EBRP. And so how has the Wellesley Plunge specifically grown? I mean, I know those sports teams have definitely helped, but I got to go last year and I mean, it was jam-packed. That energy was unlike anything I'd ever experienced.
I think having a combination of young students there and sports teams from the high school there brings a whole new energy to the event. The event is family friendly, so that's a really wonderful component of it too. You go to a lot of charity events where children can't be a part of it, and this event is all ages, and the kids are plunging alongside the adults, and that's really special. And the media has really taken to this story, which we've been so fortunate. It creates wonderful TV footage, especially. So I would encourage anyone who's doing a plunge in their community, TV news crews love this event. The splash is wonderful to catch on camera. So every year we've been able to just build upon the number of people there and the number of media there, and we can't stop, won't stop. We are getting student ambassadors involved this year, trying to encourage, the younger generations to give back and to learn about EB. And I truly believe there's just this endless potential for this event and for the, networking and outreach that we can make.
Absolutely. I think so many of, these 20+ plunges we've seen over the past 7 years have definitely proven that. I mean, of course, Wellesley has grown, but this whole movement has grown. There's been, as everyone can see on this map here, so many plunges around the world, the UK, Ireland, Japan, Australia, Canada, so many across the states. And there's also been a lot of new ways to plunge. Kristan, can you talk to us about some of that? Maybe some of the favorite and very creative plunges that you've seen over the years?
Yes, I mean, first starting with virtual plunges, which has been really exciting to see. If you're not able to get a plunge movement together, but you can do a plunge on social media and challenge a friend to do a plunge too. There's a little bit of momentum that builds from that, and it gets really exciting. We've also seen people plunge in cold plunges. We've seen fire hoses. We've seen indoor pools. You name it. There's really another really special part about this event is just that there is so much opportunity to get creative and do something really cool. So we really strongly encourage people to be creative. If there's a pool nearby, great. If there isn't, find another way.
Yeah, I think my personal favorite is I'm pretty sure a couple years ago for a virtual plunge, somebody got like a piece of construction equipment to hold water and dump it on their heads. So, I mean, really, like, anything anyone can think of, go for it, make it happen. And Kristan, you talked a little bit about some of the really amazing, beautiful media attention that the plunge has gotten, but we've been lucky enough to see some celebrity ambassadors and involvement too. Can you talk to us about what that has meant for the cause and the movement?
Absolutely. I mean, I think when my phone buzzed and Jessica Biel had tagged the plunge for Elodie in a post, my heart stopped for a second. She had heard about the cause from a friend, and next thing we know, she was plunging into her pool in her apartment and, giving a lot of notoriety to this event. And from there, we were able to garner People magazine coverage and just really take advantage of some wonderful press opportunities from that. And of course, you guys all know, the Vetters have been so wonderful to this cause. And obviously we'll let the Seattle team talk about that a bit more, but their event has really just helped our star rise even more. And obviously Kermit, I can't leave him out, and Sean Casey. We've just been so blessed with people who have cared about this event and given it some attention and helped us build and build. Again, like I said, and I don't want to sound like a broken record, but I think there's endless opportunity, not just for this event, but for the media coverage that we can garner from it.
It's so true, Kristan. It's, such a fun and hopefully easy thing to get behind because you and your friends have really just created such a beautiful and inspiring and creative movement. I mean, it's just exploded and grown so much. And I think it's grown because anyone can truly, get involved. it's been 7 amazing years. I know we've got some pretty big goals to grow this year, but in the future, what do you hope to see for the Plunge? What do you hope to see it become? Oh, sorry, I think you're muted.
I think she froze. Oh, she's back.
I'm sorry, you froze for me. I apologize, everyone.
That's okay. These things happen. I don't, just in case you didn't hear the end of the question, what do you hope for the Plunge in the future? What do you hope to see it become?
I would love to see the momentum continue to build and to see this truly spread around the globe. I would love to see more youth ambassadors come forward, more corporate sponsors come forward. We've been so blessed in our sponsors, and I would love to see that continue to build. I just believe in this event. I think there is endless opportunity, and I'm so grateful to anyone who wants to learn about it and be a part of this amazing movement.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I think that's such a great way to wrap up our discussion. And just thank you again, Kristan. Such massive
you.
props to you, not just for talking with everyone tonight, but of course for all of the amazing energy that you've really thrown behind this movement and to EBRP. We just can't thank you enough.
It's been a pleasure.
So as we've heard from Kristan and from Emily, we take the plunge every year to make waves in our mission to cure EB by the end of this decade and to cause a ripple effect for the 400 million people around the world who battle a rare disease. Now, to accelerate our mission and to achieve this goal, we need to invest in innovative research and promising science. And thanks to this incredible initiative that the Plunge has become and the thousands of amazing plungers and donors and supporters that have been involved over the years, we've been able to do just that, and a lot of progress has been made. But to quickly take a step back, EBRP was founded in 2010, and at that time, there wasn't a lot of activity in the EB space. There weren't a lot of clinical trials, and unfortunately, there wasn't a lot of hope. But since our inception, we've raised over $70 million to fund more than 150 really innovative and promising EB research projects, which has helped lead to a complete transformation of the EB landscape. From just 2 clinical trials when we started to now over 40, and of course from 0 treatments to now not 1, but 2 FDA-approved EB treatments just in the past year alone. The growth has just been incredible. Half of these clinical trials that I'm talking about, EBRP has actually funded directly. And we're very proud to say that 90% of our revenue, and this is all revenue, so including all of the support from the Plunge, 90% of that goes directly towards funding research. And while these milestones are encouraging and they're really exciting, they are still just that, they're milestones. They're stepping stones on our journey. They are certainly not the final destination. And we are personally at EBRP more laser focused than ever before on curing EB. So how will we get there? At EBRP, you probably often, if you're familiar with us, hear us talk about the fact that science actually is not the largest obstacle when advancing research and when curing a rare disease like EB in particular. We've isolated the gene that causes the mutation. We've set our sights and really invested in things like CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing and stem cell therapies that could lead to definitive treatments and to cures. The biggest roadblock we often find is actually funding. This kind of research, this later stage research and clinical trials in particular are incredibly expensive. And more than that, more people just need to know about EB. It happens to be EB Awareness Week right now, so maybe this is particularly timely, but not just this week. Every day we need to spread awareness. It's so vitally important when you're talking about a rare disease like EB. Awareness not only, of course, leads to more support, but to key decision makers and authorities like the FDA being more educated. And in that way, it really helps move things like treatments and cures along. So for this EB Awareness Week, and of course beyond, how can we make these things happen? This fundraising, this advocacy, this awareness. It seems like a lot for one person or a small group of people to take on. But luckily, thanks to amazing people like Kristan and Emily and everyone on this call, we have efforts like the Plunge. The Plunge for Elodie in particular for us is our largest annual fundraiser and awareness builder, all combined in one. And as you've heard today, truly anyone can get involved. And when hundreds and thousands of people band together and they take small actions, we see a butterfly effect and really big change can happen. As you can see here on this slide, when the Plunge began, EBRP had funded a little over 50 projects we'd raised almost $30 million. And at that time, there were 0 treatments for EB. But now, as we enter the 8th year of the Plunge, we've had over 20 plunges around the world fundraising and spreading awareness, which has led to EBRP being able to fund over 100 more projects than we had 8 years ago. We've raised over $70 million now, and we have not one, but 2 FDA-approved treatments. But as I've said, and I'll continue to say, our work is absolutely not done. We need everyone's support on this call and beyond, your family, your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues. We need everyone to rally and to support to make our goal of a cure by 2030 a reality. We're not going to stop plunging until that day comes, and we hope that you'll join us and get all of your communities involved. I'm now so thrilled to introduce you to Annie and Patterson McKenzie, some of my friends here who have done just this. They've mobilized their communities, they've dove headfirst into this effort, and they've taken action. Hi, Annie. Hi, Patterson. Thanks so much for joining us
How's it going?
today.
Hi. Oh, thank you so much for having us.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell everyone who you are?
Hi, I'm Patterson, and I'm 9 years old, and I have RDEB, and I live in Maple Valley, Washington, and this is my mom, Annie.
Oh, hi, everybody. We are just so happy to be a part of this town hall, but also really the Plunge for Elodie community. We have strived to be awareness advocates and fundraisers since Patterson was around. I would say that first year,
Yeah.
we were just surviving. We were not advocating. We were not doing anything other than just really trying to stabilize a care plan for Patterson at that time. And when we had that in place, we really wanted to focus on making a difference in the EB community. So for us, we started a small nonprofit, Pursuit for Patterson, which really helped us raise funds and for research, but also to help EB families that were in need. And so the last several years, we've really had our primary focus on donating to research initiatives. And I think doing this direct fundraising effort for EB Research Partnership has just been one of our greatest experiences. So thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for not only, taking the time today, but for spearheading such massive efforts. I know you did a plunge in your hometown as well as Seattle,
Yeah.
which I'm sure was a lot. So I'd love to talk to you guys today about how the plunge has impacted yourselves and your communities. Just kind of to start, how did you learn about the plunge in particular, and what made you guys want to get involved?
Yeah, so we were on one of our quarterly touch base calls with Michael Hund a few years back, and Peter and I really we expressed to him our desire to get back into a live event of some kind. Pursuit for Patterson efforts were somewhat on a pause during the pandemic, and we were doing virtual fundraising, which was successful, but we really wanted to have something in person for an option. And so in brainstorming with Michael, he connected us locally with the first plunge effort here in Seattle, which was underway, and it was hosted by the Vetters. And so we weren't really sure what to expect. It was held at a local restaurant, and we were told it was like ice baths. So, but Patterson turns out found his calling as a coach.
Yeah.
I
really enjoy it.
He did. You really enjoyed,
Calming people down.
Yeah. And cheering people on, and really, I think you were such a good coach and was so inspired by other people's bravery to take the plunge in such a way that was really painful and cold. But he was so good at coaching that he last minute decided that he needed to also do the plunge in an ice bath. And there was really no talking him out of it, even though we tried. And he lasted like a minute in the plunge bath, which
Mostly because it was only allowed for kids to do a minute.
Kids did a minute, which
That's pretty cold. I don't know if everyone saw the picture, but there's some ice. There's some ice in that tub. It looks freezing.
Yeah, there's I can't count how many, but there was a lot.
Yes, there was, but you know, I think the I guess the other memory that came out of that is like the minute he got out of the plunge, we were able to like rush him back, and he got a whole new vision of the kitchen of the restaurant we were in because we heated him up by the pizza ovens. And
It
so
was cool.
yeah, it was really cool. So anyway, that's how we learned about the plunge and got involved.
Yeah.
That's so amazing. And then, I mean, that was just, I guess, 2 years ago. And since then, you've had hundreds of people in Seattle.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's grown so quickly. How did you get so many people involved, Patterson?
I told all my friends at school and teachers and nurses and at Boy Scouts, and my mom's friends also pitched in too. One of my mom's friends, Stacy, she and Jill made flyers, and my mom's other friend, Lori, she made a team of coworkers, and we also got interviewed by a local radio station.
That's
for-
so amazing.
people
That's a
to-
lot of work. Was it fun?
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yeah.
Big speech.
Yeah, you nailed it. And I think too, like you also did some social media efforts. He did interviews with Harper, which were really fun and were a hit out here. And then I
Yeah.
think also too, besides just the social media posts, but the email blasts really helped us to rally efforts to get people involved.
That's incredible. So many amazing efforts. And I'd love to know if you're comfortable sharing, how has the plunge really impacted your experience with EB? Do you find that more people know about it now, or do you talk differently about it? Has anything changed in that way since you've gotten involved?
I'm not actually sure how to answer that one. So, Mom.
Yeah. So I think no doubt that the fundraising efforts from this type of event have funded the clinical trials and the first ever FDA approved treatments. Patterson is a recipient of the first FDA approved treatment. So he takes Vyjuvik, and we have just seen some really promising results. And we truly credit this type of initiative and EB research partnership for moving that research along. I also think seeing, you know, such a widespread and range of awareness from not only strangers, but friends like showing up to take the plunge. And we had people introducing themselves, sharing words of encouragement, taking pictures with P. I think it has really given Patterson confidence in such a positive interaction with people that are just rooting for us and the whole community of people living with EB. How'd I do?
Good. Really
Did that
good.
help you? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so beautiful, Annie. Thank you so much for sharing. It sounds like there's already been some great memories made over the past couple of years in and around the Seattle Plunge. So what are you guys most looking forward to at the next one?
Meeting new people and raising more money for EB research.
I heard you got to pet a lot of dogs last time, Patterson, too. Maybe there'll be some more
Yeah,
dogs.
yeah.
there.
Lot of dog petting.
Yeah.
Lot of pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. That was like a fun experience.
Yeah, it was cool. I was like, for me?
And I think too, like, I really look forward to just the collaboration with other supporters and I think families, like, you know, hanging out with Annie and Brooks and hanging out with Elodie and meeting her for the first time at the summit. I think just that collaboration that we've had over the office hours and the plunge planning was just, I look forward to that collaboration. It's been really fun.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's definitely something we'll talk a little bit more about in our next session or our next section, because I know some people had questions about resources and that we provide. So I know you guys definitely took advantage of those office hours. So maybe we can talk about that in a minute too. Just sort of last question to wrap us up here. I mean, Patterson, you and your family and your community have done so much for the Seattle Plunge, and there have been some pretty cool moments that you've made happen. But do you have a dream for the Seattle Plunge? Like, what would be the coolest, wildest thing that could happen at the plunge? a dream plunge?
My dream was just that we have the same amount of people or more, and that Aqua Girl shows up again. I mean, she was really cool.
Oh yeah, there was an Aquaman. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that was Jenny, if you're on the call. Shout out to Jenny for being an amazing supporter and an amazing Aquaman
I
who
was,
took the plunge.
I was actually just typing an email asking if you will come to Aspen next year for a plunge in the snow with Rowan.
Ooh.
Yeah, we did have a plunge like that last year in Sheridan. It was colder outside than in the river. It was like
Yeah.
it was in the 30s.
I think I'll have to wear a different costume, but
Like a Yeti costume or something.
yeah.
Like that.
Thanks for the shout out.
Yeah, of course.
How fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Patterson and Annie. It's always such a joy speaking with you both. I mean, your enthusiasm and your passion for the plunge and for our mission is just so palpable, and hopefully it'll encourage some folks on this call to take action and
Yeah.
start their own plunge.
Yeah, I just want everyone who's thinking on having the plunge or doing the plunge next year. I want them to think of kids with EB, not me. Well, they can't think about me. Just other kids as well,
Yeah,
and other people.
that's awesome.
Awesome, Patterson. You're such a rock star to us. You're so brave in so many ways, taking the plunge yourself, sharing your story, encouraging others to get involved. We can't thank you enough.
Awesome.
It's
Thanks for
so-
having us.
Thank you.
Of course, it's truly, truly my pleasure. With that, I think we'll move to the Q&A portion of our call tonight. As I mentioned earlier, just a little reminder, we're going to prioritize those pre-submitted questions, but we're going to do our best to answer as many questions as possible, whether they're in the chat or in my inbox. And of course, if we don't get to them today, we will definitely follow up shortly after this and answer all of your questions. So the first one that we saw, shout out to the folks at Denver, Colorado, for putting this question in. They want to know, what are the logistics required for hosting a plunge? Emily, Kristan, Annie, Patterson, from your experience, totally feel free to chime in here. What are the logistics you think that are the most important for hosting a plunge?
I guess I can start, and then, everyone and Elodie can say hi. Elodie.
Hi, Ellie. Thanks for joining us.
I mean, it really depends on what your vision is. Like, this is sort of the beauty of the plunge. It can be kind of whatever makes sense for you and your community. So Annie and Patterson talked about how their first plunge in Seattle was actually just with like a cold plunge tub at a restaurant. And if that's the easiest body of water, I think that's amazing. And actually it sounds great and really fun, honestly. We do, I sort of do two plunges, one where I grew up and one where I live now. And one is in a pond in the town I grew up with, where we do file for a permit for with the town, and then just get the word out, have people sign waivers before. The plunge that we do where we live in Connecticut is there's actually an amusement park right on Long Island Sound, and they allow us to use their beach for a small fee. So it's super easy. And again, we do sort of the waivers, and we get everyone there, give them tips on how to plunge. And the entire event on the beach is like 30-45 minutes max. Where we live near Elodie, we end up hosting like a get together back near where we live after for people, where we just sort of have some food and buy some drinks for people, but that's pretty short-lived too. So, and not necessarily, and that's more of a private, smaller thing with our closer friends. So, it can look however you feel makes the most sense for your community and for what your goals are. We're really open to honestly anything. And Allison puts together sort of every other week calls where you can jump on and ask her questions, because she's honestly more of an expert than I am at this point in different plunges. I don't know, Kristan, do you want to add anything?
I was just going to say the other wonderful thing that Allison has helped us put together is sort of a cheat sheet, if you will, that gives people everything that they might need to know. We have sample waivers. You were so great in helping people, build social media platforms, and there's documents in there for any outreach you want to do. We really have been cognizant of wanting people to feel super supported for the whole planning experience and process. So, after you know what you might want to do and what you want your event to look like, Allison and myself and all of us are really there to hold your hand and help you through the process, because we have built such a wonderful, arsenal of a wonderful toolkit, if you will. So, and we also, just to reiterate, we do have a call every other week just to make sure people feel supported and we can all share ideas. And that's where I've gotten some of the best ideas for our event. So that's really helpful as well.
I'm so glad that you both brought that up. We, EBRP, myself in particular, are truly here to help as much or as little as anybody wants. Everything Emily and Kristan have said, those sort of office hour calls, we call them, will probably start in about 2 weeks after this call, once we have some more locations maybe. So we do those. I mean, we've helped people find locations, file permits, get insurance, like truly anything you can think of, we are here to help. I don't know. I know we have some other Plunge hosts on this call. If Crystal, Damien, Annie, and Brenda, if anyone else wants to chime in about logistics or, what you have found the most helpful in planning, please feel free to, but I never mean to put anyone on the spot, so no pressure.
Can I say something?
Yeah, absolutely.
I just was going to reiterate what Kristan said. Think outside the box. It doesn't have to be a huge event, big or small. It all accomplishes the same thing, and it's just a fun event. And try to make it that way.
Perfectly said. Thank you, Brenda.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the other questions, we got this a couple of times, was people wondering what plunges are happening so far. We've got 9 confirmed so far. Wellesley, of course, hosted by Kristan and her friends. That'll be March 22nd. We have Greenwich as well, hosted by Emily and her family and friends. That'll be April 5th. Seattle, of course, is coming back. Date to be announced there. You can see all of the locations we have confirmed at plungeforelodie.org. And I think there's a couple other, hopefully potential plungers on this call if anyone else wants to share their location. I know we've got Greensboro on the call. Maybe some others as well.
Yeah, Greensboro set for March 15th.
Nashville does not have a date, but it will be Nashville, Allison. I did decide that. So and then I'll go ahead and say, like, the best advice I could give is start as early as possible. Meanwhile, I'll say that and then also say I don't have a date yet or a place solidified, but start as early as possible because I tried to learn that last year or this year.
That's such good advice, Crystal. And thank you. Nashville was such a blast last year. So many special moments there in particular. So we're so grateful to have you back. I think LA, Adelaide and Australia are back as well. We've got a plunge in the UK again. And hopefully, who knows, we'll have some more confirmed shortly after this call. If anyone is interested in starting a location, please feel free to at any time shoot me an email. You can start planning now, like Crystal is saying, or even if it's, in a couple weeks or couple months, let me know and we'll get something off the ground, I promise. So another question that we had, Kristan, maybe you can help us answer this. I know you touched on media involvement a little bit. Someone said, I saw the plunge on a Chronicle piece last year and was so impressed with your reach. What would your advice be for how to garner media or press attention?
That's a great question. And honestly, that's one of the wonderful things about this village is, Allison, you're a perfect example of someone who's helped me kind of craft our story. And we do a press release every year. And from there, develop some wonderful pitches. If you have connections to media or want to chat media, that's my background. So I'm delighted to do it with anybody. But I know, Greensboro is a wonderful example. They've had wonderful connections with media there too. I think it never hurts to send an email or pick up the phone. And what we've truly found is that this story is magnetic and people want to cover it. And again, there's something about TV footage that really just is really fantastic for this event. So I would just say I'm delighted to chat media coverage with anybody. We're happy to help in any form that you might be thinking of. And I'm not afraid to go national, local, you name it. This story has legs, and I think the faces behind it, like the Pattersons and Elodies, who are just so incredible, are wonderful spokespeople too. So I'll leave it there, but again, delighted to chat with anyone about it. That's my wheelhouse and I love it.
Thank you so much for offering that, Kristan. That's such an amazing resource. I know we talked a bit about sort of the requirements to start a plunge, what to do if you're not by a body of water. But another question we had when people were RSVPing was, what's the minimum fundraising requirement to start a plunge? And if it hasn't been clear already, there isn't one. There's no fundraising minimums. There's really so many ways to make an impact. Of course, every dollar counts and truly matters. We've got a goal of 600,000 this year, so that's definitely a part of it. But also, like I mentioned, raising awareness is so critically important. Even if, you raise a couple hundred or a couple $1,000s and you film a video of your plunge in your backyard and you share that with friends and they start their own plunge and the word and awareness spreads, that's one of the best things we can hope to happen with this event. So I mean it when I say there are no fundraising minimums and anyone can get involved. Another question that we had was someone said, I've seen the plunge for Elodie, but I've also seen plunges with different names. How does that work? That's so right. We do have the plunge for Patterson, plunge for Brooks as well. Emily, maybe you can chime in there sort of about, I don't know, our naming conventions or maybe a lack thereof.
Yeah, there's no rules. You name your plunge whatever you think will be the most successful way for you to raise money. So if and I've got another guest here now too, my son Gus. But we obviously ours is a plunge for Elodie, but I know for other families it makes more sense to name it after the person that their plunge is in honor of, and that's wonderful. You can also do the plunge for Elodie in honor of ... That works, but there's no requirement to use the name Elodie in the title. And I know the one in LA last year did plunge for EB, which I also think is a great way to do it and can make a lot of sense for different communities. So our goal is to raise as much money as possible, and we trust everyone who's willing to put on a plunge to know what the best way to do that is in their community.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Emily. I see there's a bit of activity in the chat. Please feel free to keep sending any comments or questions, but we do, I think, have time for just one more so far. Like I said, I'll get back to everyone else afterwards, so please feel free to keep them coming. Someone was asking, how can we get more involved with the plunges and with other fundraisers? I could not have planted this question better if I tried. This is a perfect transition to our next and final little wrap-up section. So big shout out to whoever asked that question. How to get involved with the plunge. There's a lot of ways to get involved, both with this initiative and with everything else that we have going on with EBRP. So how can you get involved and accelerate our mission, help us get to that cure by 2030? There's definitely a couple ways. With the plunge, we talked about, we already have 9 locations confirmed for 2025 so far. You can learn about more of those plunge sites at plungeforelodie.org. And you and your friends, your family, colleagues, anyone you want to bring is absolutely more than welcome to attend any one of these plunges. You can attend multiple of these plunges. You don't have to be, maybe personally connected to the people that are hosting. We would always be more than happy to have as many people as possible. It's truly the more the merrier. So come join us at any of the plunges we have going on. Or if you don't see a plunge near you, you can start your own. Like we talked about today, hopefully you've heard there's so many creative ways to host your own plunge, and EBRP can be with you, as much or as little, truly every step of the way. I know last year when we did a call like this, and just a couple minutes after getting off the phone, we already had a couple plunges confirmed. I see that's sort of what might be happening in the chat. So hopefully we can get a couple more locations after this call as well. Like I said, if you're interested in starting a location, feel free to reach out to me. We can set up a call. We can chat via email at allison@ebresearch.org, and we'll make sure to add your location to our plungeforelodie.org site. And lastly, if you can't take the plunge yourself, but you still want to make a splash, you can make a donation. Really, every dollar truly counts. We've got a big goal this year, like I said, and I know Kristan alluded to the fact that we also have a range of sponsorship opportunities this year. You can also view those on our website. And if you know someone or you know a business that may be interested in sponsoring this event, you can feel free to make a warm introduction to me or to the EBRP team. We'd be happy to chat with them and share the variety of ways and the variety of levels at which they can get involved. We also, outside of the Plunge, have a couple initiatives going on now through the end of the year that, again, anyone and everyone is welcome to get involved with. As everyone now knows, it's EB Awareness Week this week. And thanks to Dr. Jeff Heddles, a very, very kind and generous donor of EBRPs, we're currently running a dollar for dollar match campaign. If anyone makes a donation to the Wings of Change campaign, it'll be matched from now to the end of the year up to $250,000. I think we'll drop the link in the chat there so that you can get involved. You'll see on that website, there's also a way to get yourself on a billboard in Times Square by making a donation to one of our pages. So definitely be sure to check that out. That's super cool. We also have a virtual poker tournament coming up as a fun way to celebrate this Giving Tuesday. We'll have some exclusive auction items, some special guests, and don't worry, we have free poker lessons. If you're like me and you've never played before in your life, but you want to give it a go, everyone is welcome, even complete beginners. This will be hosted by our Change for Charlie friends, and it's virtual, so you can play, from the comfort of your own home. And lastly, if you're really passionate about this cause, this mission, and you want to get involved, but you sort of want to do your own thing, we absolutely welcome that. That's amazing. We have what we call our EB Active program that really encourages you, to do just that, to do your own thing, get creative, get your community involved, start something in your local community. We've seen 5Ks like Grateful for Graham pictured here. We've seen hot chocolate stands. I know someone on this call has hosted some of those with their daughters. We've seen bake sales, golf tournaments, really anything you can dream of. If you're interested in starting your own event, please reach out to me. Just like with the Plunge, me and our whole team will be with you, to help get it off the ground. So always feel free to reach out. And with that being said, I just want to thank everyone so much for taking the time to learn about the Plunge and everything we have going on. We hope that you'll join us for what's, fingers crossed, our biggest year yet. So be sure to look out for not only more webinars, we'll do these every month, but for more updates on this year's Plunge as well. That will come from EBRP via our newsletter and all of these social media links as well. Thank you so much again, everyone, for taking the time. I'll get back to anyone's questions over email, so definitely look out for a response from me. And I hope everyone has a great rest of their night.
Thank you.